Good morning. I'd like to introduce you to Charlotte Stallings, known as the Action Accelerator. She's an executive development consultant specializing in leadership and success. She's been a keynote speaker in corporate leadership and development consultant. Business and leadership experience comes from U.S. Bank, Xerox, and 20 plus years at American Express. She's a regular guest on Houston's Fox 26 morning news segment, and she's a contributor to the Wall Street Journal, Essence Magazine, and many more. She's also an author of I Wish Someone Had Told Me, Financial Lessons Learned the Hard Way. And now I present to you Charlotte Stallings.
Thank you so much. It's my delight and honor to be here. Good morning to everyone who's here. And as we think about Big Mama's house, I think about my mother and how she imparted so much wisdom. So what I'm doing is starting us off this segment with what I'll call the savings blueprint. Because when I think about Big Mama's house or anybody's house, somebody built that house, and there are different facets and aspects of that house. So we'll be going through this blueprint today. So follow along with me. What I would like to do is introduce you to my family and a little bit just about my story, just to contextualize things for you. I grew up thinking that everybody who didn't look like me automatically had money. But that wasn't the case. And I didn't learn that until later. This is a picture of my family when we were young, my mom, and she raised my siblings and I by herself. I'm so thankful she was gifted and graced to do so. And she told us often, the way it is now isn't how it's going to be always. So that was a source of inspiration for me. And I saw her every day get up and work and do all that was needed to take care of us and to raise us in a safe and nurturing environment and to give us what she knew. One of the things she said, though, however, over some time was, I wish I had known some other things, like what we'll be talking about here today. She wished she had known about contributing to her retirement account, some key things that she didn't have the beauty of knowing. And so I am appraising each one of you and applauding you for being here, because this is how we learn and grow. So my family here, and we grew to learn and get some information and insights. And I was able to spend a lot of time with American Express, which is where I like to say I cut my teeth on sales and marketing and leadership and learning about money and investing. And that is what led me to write this book. It's titled by what my mom said. I wish someone had told me, so that I could share and learn with my family and then be able to share with all of you. So thank you, Houston Alumni Chapter, for inviting me to be here today, because it didn't start with all that I know now. It started with very humble beginnings. And so here's our agenda for the next 15 minutes or so that I'll be with you. I want to talk about, and again, think about building something, a house, Big Mama's house. There was some planning that went into constructing that house, and they had to get permits from the city to be able to build. So that's going to be our first area that we'll cover. Then we'll get into the foundation. You need to have a solid, rock solid foundation in order to frame up the house. So that'll be our second area. And then lastly, we'll talk about roughing the house in. There's some things that need to be sanded down, touched up, finished, and that's where we'll wrap up our time together. And the whole focus for me this morning is, as you heard, practical savings strategies. Let's get into it with the planning and the permits. So I'll ask you to reflect, and I'd like you to just take about 20 seconds and think about, what are your top 3 financial goals? Because as you're planning your house, your financial future, you got to think about what matters to you. And these letters at the top stand for what's important to you. So I'm going to be quiet for about 15 seconds, and I want you thinking and writing. Now, I recognize that this is a webinar, so it's one way, and we can't interact in a way that we would if we were together in person. But I ask you to do this because we want you really reflecting on what's important to you. So in the planning phase, think about, if you're building a house, you sit down with the builder, the architect, and you say, hey, I really want big windows here, or this is really important to me that I have this kind of, I need 2-car garage versus 1. whatever that is, you've got to go forward with some clear thoughts about what is important to you. So as we think about saving strategies and all that you'll hear today, be very considerate around what does matter to you financially, and talk with those that you love, those that you live with, about these things. And to move forward, planning needs to encompass some real important data. I want you to consider some of the facts about why it's important to get a handle on your savings and all kinds of things relative to your finances. Here's some data that's specific to women, but it's so important. If we have gentlemen on today, think about your wives, your daughters, your mothers, whomever. Why do we have to have a plan relative to our financial futures? You can see the numbers here. On average, women spend a lot of time, far more time than gentlemen, out of the workforce, caring for children, family members. I like to say we're sandwiched between maybe raising our kids, even if they're young adults, and taking care of our family members who may depend on us. That's a long time to take that time out of the workforce. And what does it mean? We can't maybe contribute as much as we would like, and that can be huge. Continuing to the right here, 11% of women 65 and older are considered what we'll call poor, maybe not in the strong financial position that they'd like to be, compared to men, 7% of men who are that age. So women sometimes were at a disadvantage in that regard. 59 is the median age when a woman perhaps loses her spouse, and we have a longer life expectancy. 14 years is how long on average we outlive our spouses. So that long life expectancy, having maybe not put as much aside in our retirement accounts because we've spent more time caring for family members and such, contributes to why we have to make sure that we're planning and strategizing and saving wisely. So be aware of the data and the numbers. And that takes me to this next area. I'll call the permitting part of our agenda here. I'd like for you to think about, again, just a few seconds here, who are the top 10 most important people to you? If we've said, I've got some things that are important to me financially, we've looked at some data, I want you to look inward. Who are the top 10 most important people to you? I'll just give you 5 seconds, and I want you to make a mental list or write them down. Begin right now. Okay, that's been about 5, 6 seconds, and maybe you didn't fill all 10 up. That's okay. But here's my question for you. Where were you on the list? Where was your name? You might be thinking, Charlotte, I didn't think about me. Well, in this whole planning and permitting stage, before you even start any construction, before we give out strategies around what you should do with your investments and how to save, you've got to determine that I'm important. My financial goals are important. What I want to see happen is vital. So you've got to be on that list. You've got to make prioritization a priority, that your financial life, you want to make improvements. So that's all I wanted to do with that exercise before we get to foundation. So I hope you found that making you think, okay? And making you commit to saying, I'm going to do some things different because it's important to me. I've got to be on that list before I can take care of others. Let's get into this next phase here, the second part of our agenda. Let's look at the foundation. Think about the slab that's poured before we even start constructing any walls. One of the key things that we all must do is be aware of our cash flow. What's coming in every month, what's going out. And you might think, duh, Charlotte, that's so basic. But I got to tell you what, my husband and I, early on when we got married, we were at an event very much like this. And the gentleman who was leading the session asked us to consider this, our cash flow. What's coming in and when is it coming in? How frequently are you getting paid? And I said, well, we get paid twice a month. He said, okay, is it absolutely the 1st and 15th? I said, no, every 2 weeks I get paid. Turns out my husband, Ron, same thing. He was getting paid every 2 weeks. And the gentleman said, do you realize you're getting between the two of you, 4 additional paychecks each year? We had never thought about it. We had never thought about it. And so he said, that means that you've got extra money to do something with. And so I just ask you to consider the very basic things before you get into all kinds of strategies. What comes in each month, what goes out. Sometimes it's periodic, meaning every so often, once a quarter, maybe you get an inflow of money. Maybe it's a side hustle that you have. But be very aware of what's coming in and what's going out. That is huge. and makes a difference in you creating a budget, which gets to this next piece. So we've laid the foundation. We're very aware of what's coming in, what's going out. And then we start framing up the walls of our house, okay, Big Mama's house. And some things to consider. It's about budgeting and spending. People don't like the B word. I say B is not a cuss word. Budgeting is not a cuss word. Call it a planning, a spending plan. How are you going to know how you're going to get to your next destination or where you want to be if you don't have a plan to get there? So budgeting is a tool that helps us achieve the goals that we want. Now, notice I have some numbers up here, and I want to introduce you to these. You might be saying, Charlotte, how do I set up a budget? What do I need to do? Well, first things first, let's start with something we'll call the 50-30-20 rule. You can read about this. You can certainly Google it. It is an approach that you might take to establishing your budget, a budgeting method, goal, or guideline. And what do I mean? 50% of what your take-home pay is could be allocated towards your needs. That's housing, your mortgage, your rent, whatever that is. 30% could be allocated toward wants. I don't need it, but I want it. I want to go shopping. I want to, go see a concert. 20% allocated towards your savings. So this might be a starting place for you. You might say, I can't do that. My numbers need to look different. Not a problem. It's a starting place, okay? And once you've kind of determined, here's what my goal will be around budgeting, make sure that you are capturing things and capturing, if you write it on a notepad, if you use Excel, if you use an app, there are apps like Mint and so many different tools that are out there, but absolutely capture. Don't keep it in our heads. There's too much that we're trying to remember. So use some kind of tool to record. And your tool may even be the envelope method. Now, maybe some of you have heard about the envelopes. We learned about the envelopes that Saturday. We were in that workshop, my husband and I, changed our lives. It's not super high tech. And I tell you what, it'll help you stay righteous and keep on your budget. The envelope method means, well, you got to start with a budget. You got to say this much, maybe perhaps I'll allocate toward food or gas, whatever that is, especially things that can fluctuate. You take that money, you put that cash in the envelope. Let's take grocery store. You go to the grocery store with what? A list and some coupons. And you go through and you get what you need. You fill up your basket, your cart. And when you get to the checkout line, you're paying for things. Let's say your total amount that you're purchasing exceeds what you have in that envelope. What you don't do is pull out your debit card and swipe and pay for the extra things. You maybe take some things out of that cart because what you've allocated in the envelope is this much. Now, the beauty of this method is it helps you determine, am I under budgeting or over budgeting? If you, at the end of every shopping trip, grocery trip, you've got extra money in the envelope, then maybe you're allocating too much. Or if you're always short, maybe you're not allocating enough. So it's a tool to help you determine where you need to make some tweaks. Now you may say, I never deal with cash, Charlotte. That's just going to be the death of me. Well, then you can use your debit card, absolutely, and just write on that envelope, here's the goal. So my point is there are lots of different ways to budget and help you plan on what you're going to spend. Have a plan, have a plan. And then always ask yourself, is it a need? Is it a want? If it's a need, think about it first. Have you budgeted? Have you allocated? How's it going to look? How's it going to affect the budget? And if it's a want, and I'm not saying never get what you want. In fact, that's what we're saying in this 50-30 rule. Ask yourself, how will it impact my budget and my ability to achieve what it is that I want? And then if it's a want, I like to say, breathe, think about it, what's it's going to do. And then can you wait like 5 minutes? Can you wait like 5 hours? Can you wait 5 days? If you really got to have it, make sure that you're in the place to be able to do that, okay? So we've talked about framing. Let's go on. And I'm watching my time to make sure I'm within our time frame. One of the first things that we want to do in the framing process of building our financial houses is pay yourself first. We're talking about practical steps for saving. And one of the things that you can do is automate, automate, automate. At your job, go to HR. There's some documents you could fill out and say, hey, take this % out of my paycheck So it's out of sight, out of mind. And that's you paying yourself. And you can have that money sent to a savings account. You can divvy it up between a number of savings accounts at different financial institutions, but commit to paying yourself first. This goes back to that list that I shared. Who are the top 10 most important people to you? You first. So that's not selfish. That's not greedy. That's making sure that you can get to where you want to be and help others as needed. So this is key. Pay yourself first and automate. Here's another consideration in saving, an approach to take. I like to say, remember the song by Erykah Badu, Bag Lady? Well, I want you to be a bag gentleman or a bag lady in a really positive way. And think about your money. You need to carry around some bags, secure your bag to meet your short-term goals, your intermediate goals, your long-term goals. Short-term goals, these might be things that are 6 months to a couple of years out. Maybe you're planning a big trip with the family, who knows what. And notice we've got a smaller bag. So we don't need a ton of money there. This might be in your bank account, at your credit union or your bank, okay? Highly accessible, highly liquid, easy to get to. Intermediate goals. Maybe you're saving for a down payment for the house or again, a bigger kind of trip, that whatever it might be. And so this is where you might keep that money. Maybe it's some certificates of deposit at your bank, you're staggering or layering securities, those maturity dates. So intermediate goals, and then your long-term goals. These are goals 5, 6, 7 years out. Notice there's a bigger bag. And you need to be packing all these bags, is what I like to say. So secure your bags. You're not just saving in one place, but maybe it's several places because you have different goals. Quick story. One of the biggest mistakes I ever made, my husband and I were saving for a down payment for our house. And you know what happened? I was putting the money in the wrong place. And then when it came time, I was putting the money here, investing in securities. And when it came time to take the money for the down payment, the market was down. So we had lost some money. Big learning lesson there, okay? So be mindful, secure your bags. Let's do this. I want to go through what I'll call 6 areas. This is, we've laid the foundation for our house. We've planned, we've strategized, we've laid the foundation, we've framed up with some of the things we've talked about. Now we're roughing in. We're making the touches around the house to ensure everything looks good. So I've got 6 areas that I really want you to pay attention to with your financial house. First off, these are things that will derail your ability to save and save consistently. One of them is sometimes our family members come or our friends and they want help. Hey, can you loan me this? Can you help me out? And we have big hearts and we want to help them. So we tap into our savings or what we have coming in. So this first rule, only loan what you can afford to give away. If you can't afford to never get it back, then do not loan it. Or set a guideline for yourself. I will only give away $50 a month to whoever gets me first. Have a rule, stick to that, because otherwise you won't be able to get to where you want to go. That's one rule or consideration. Here's the second one. Make sure, ladies and gentlemen, that you are reviewing your bank accounts regularly. I say weekly. You may say that's too often. Well, twice a month, or at least monthly. Now, why do you want to do that? Few reasons: errors, omissions. There can be mistakes. There can be even people who are hacking into your account. One year, my husband and I were leaving for vacation and looking at the bank account. Somebody was paying their light bill through our bank account. Like, it was crazy. So had we not been checking, we would have missed those and had some big issues. And also subscriptions. How many times do we sign up for things and it may be $10 here for some app or another, and it's just accumulating and we're not even using that app. So review your bank accounts on a regular basis. Third area to consider, have a plan for windfalls. What do I mean? Extra money that you may receive. People are doing taxes. You're going to get the tax returns, your refund. Have a plan. Remember 50, 30, 10? What are you going to do with it? So then the emotion isn't overtaking you when you're out shopping and at the Galleria or wherever you want to be. So have a plan for the windfalls. I'm going to move quickly. I've got just a couple more minutes. Here's the next one. Everybody, please, please check your credit reports. Annualcreditreport.com. Used to be annually, you could get one free report. Now it's weekly. It's free. With the pandemic, they made that available. Why do you want to do that? Again, there could be errors, omissions, different things going on. Credit card usage. This will derail your ability to save effectively. You want to just keep 1/3 of your usage, meaning you got $1,000 credit line. Just use up to 30% of that, pay on time, and pay more than the minimum. That will help you improve your financial situation, give you more money to be able to save. And then this is just a big rule I want to drop on everybody. Consume less than you produce. The key is it's not what you make, it's what you keep. And if you can learn and develop the discipline to save, you can be in a better position. So consume less than you can produce. This is where I'll stop. And the finishes for the house, I've got 1 minute. This is a homework assignment for you. Based on what you're hearing today, or even in this segment, what are you going to do? What are you going to keep doing that you're doing well? What are you going to add? Maybe you'll hear something today. I'm doing that. I need to do that. I need to add those envelopes. What do you need to stop? Maybe it's extra spending. And what do you need to avoid altogether? That's something you can do by yourself or with your family to help you get where you want to be. Thank you. I'm going to wrap up here and turn it back over for the Q&A segment. So thank you all.